I had just finished cleaning up after breakfast when my phone rang. It was my younger son, Ivan, calling. I hadn't heard from him in a while, so I was excited to catch up. I picked up the phone, smiling, but what I heard on the other end wasn't a warm greeting. "Mom, something strange is happening. I need to tell you right now." Ivan's voice crackled, urgent and filled with panic. I could hear the noise of an airport in the background. "Hold on, Ivan. What's going on?" I asked, trying to stay calm. I don't know how to say this, but Mom, you're not going to believe me. But Araceli's on my flight, Ivan said, his voice dropping to a whisper. "She's here, on the plane, to France. But I just saw her in the house. She was in the shower when I called." I froze. My mind couldn't process what he was saying. Araceli, my daughter-in-law, had been home just moments ago. I had just spoken to her. She had gone upstairs to take a shower after we finished breakfast. There was no way she could be on a flight to France. "Even, honey, you must have made a mistake. Araceli is here at home. She's in the shower, I'm sure of it," I said, my voice trembling slightly. But Ivan wasn't backing down. His tone grew more insistent. "Mom, I'm telling you, I have her passport right here in my hand. I'm looking at it, and it's hers. She's on my flight to France. I'm telling you, something's not right. I saw her sitting in first class next to a man who looks very rich, very fancy. They were talking like a couple." I could hear the shock in his voice. I didn't know what to think. Was he mistaken? Had he confused her with someone else? But no, Ivan was sharp. He wouldn't make a mistake like that. I glanced towards the stairs, where the sound of the shower water was still running. Araceli had only gone upstairs minutes ago, but now, in the pit of my stomach, something was telling me. Something wasn't right. I couldn't keep my composure anymore. "Are you sure, Ivan? Are you sure it's her?" I asked, even though a wave of unease was slowly building in my chest. "Yes, Mom. I'm absolutely sure. I even went down to check. I saw her on the plane myself. I saw her name on her passport. She's definitely on this flight. And I'm looking at her right now, sitting next to that man." I took a deep breath, trying to process everything. "Ivan, I just saw her here. She's upstairs. She was talking to me before. She was wearing that white blouse she always wears at home." I tried to reassure him, but the more I spoke, the less sure I felt. I walked towards the living room, my hands shaking as I clutched the phone. My heart was racing. "Okay, honey, just hold on a second," I said, trying to catch my breath. I was in shock. There had to be some explanation. This couldn't be happening. I stood there, my mind racing. If Araceli was on the flight, who was in my house? Was someone else pretending to be her? I didn't even want to think about it. I could hear Ivan breathing heavily on the other end of the line. "Mom, I'm telling you, I'm not imagining this. I just checked with the flight crew, and they confirmed she's on board. It's her. I'm sure of it." I felt a cold wave of dread wash over me. The world suddenly felt like it was spinning. This wasn't possible. But there it was. The evidence was staring me in the face. The sound of the shower stopped upstairs, and just then, I heard Araceli's soft voice calling down to me. "Mom, who's on the phone?" she asked as if nothing were wrong. I panicked. My heart was pounding in my chest. "Just a friend of mine, dear," I said quickly, trying to mask the fear in my voice. I tried to act natural, as if everything was fine, but the truth was, everything was unraveling around me. I hurried to the living room, keeping my back to the stairs, trying to avoid looking at Araceli. I whispered into the phone, my voice shaking. "Ivan, I just heard Araceli. She's here. She's downstairs now. Are you sure you're not mistaken?" I could hear Ivan's breath on the other side of the phone. He didn't answer right away, but when he did, his voice was firm. "I'm telling you, Mom, I just saw her. I'm looking at her right now." I couldn't believe what I was hearing, but his words lingered in the air. They made my chest tighten. What was going on? How could she be in two places at once? I hung up the phone, my hands trembling, and sat down on the couch. My mind raced, and I could feel the weight of the situation pressing down on me. Was this some kind of joke? Or was Yvonne telling the truth? Araceli came downstairs then, fresh from the shower, her hair wet and draped loosely over her shoulders. She looked at me with that same sweet smile, as if nothing was wrong. "Everything okay, Mom?" she asked, her voice light and carefree. She didn't know what was happening. She didn't know that her secret was slowly starting to unravel. I forced a smile. "Of course, dear. Everything's fine," I replied, though inside my world felt like it was crashing down around me. I watched her closely, wondering if there was something I missed, something that would explain this madness. But there was nothing unusual about her appearance, nothing that screamed deception. She was just acting like her normal self. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog in my mind. I couldn't be wrong. I had to trust what I saw. But now, I wasn't so sure. And that's when it hit me. I had trusted Araceli for so long, but now the cracks were beginning to show. If Ivan's story was true, if she was really on that flight to France, then who was standing in front of me? And what else was she hiding? I looked at her again, and suddenly, I didn't recognize her at all. If you're enjoying this story and want to know what happens next, please hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss the shocking truth that's about to unfold. I stood there in the living room, staring at Araceli as she casually moved around, drying her hair with a towel. I wanted to believe that everything was fine, that this was just some misunderstanding, but deep down, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. How could Ivan be mistaken? He was so sure about what he had seen. And yet, here she was, just standing there, acting like nothing was out of the ordinary. My mind was racing, and I tried to calm myself. I kept thinking about everything Yvonne had said. He had been so adamant that it was her, sitting in first class, on his flight to France. But how could she be on that plane if she was here, in our house, just moments ago? It didn't make sense. I watched as Araceli put the towel down and began applying some lotion to her arms, humming softly to herself. It was all so normal, so routine. Her presence, the calmness in her voice, everything seemed exactly like it always had been. But I couldn't ignore the unsettling truth that something didn't add up. "Mom, what's going on? Why do you look so pale?" Araceli suddenly asked, noticing the strange look on my face. I forced a smile, but it didn't feel genuine. "Oh, nothing. Just a little tired." "You know, mornings can be hectic," I replied, trying to sound convincing, though my voice was tight. I was doing everything I could to hide the panic that was building inside me. Araceli looked at me for a moment, then shrugged, not seeming to notice anything strange about my behavior. "Okay, well, I'm going to make some tea." "Want some?" she asked casually, already walking toward the kitchen. I couldn't just let it go. I needed answers. I needed to know what was going on, but I couldn't exactly confront her right now, not when she was so calm, so collected. It would seem ridiculous, wouldn't it? To accuse her of being somewhere else while standing right in front of me. But deep down, I knew something was off. "Araceli," I said, my voice sounding more hesitant than I intended. She turned around as she stood in the doorway of the kitchen, waiting for me to continue. "Yes, Mom?" she asked, looking at me curiously. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my thoughts straight. "Have you been to the airport today?" The question seemed innocent enough, but my heart pounded as I waited for her response. She blinked, clearly taken aback by the question. "What? No, of course not. Why would I go to the airport?" she replied, giving me a quizzical look. I nodded, trying to act casual, but my mind was reeling. Her answer was exactly what I had expected, but there was something about the way she said it that didn't sit right with me. She didn't seem confused or concerned at all. It was as if she didn't even know what I was talking about. I could feel the doubt growing, but I pushed it aside. I had to think this through logically. "Okay, I was just wondering," I said, forcing myself to relax. I had to stay calm. There was no way to know if she was hiding something unless I confronted her directly, and I wasn't ready for that yet. But I could feel the nagging suspicion growing stronger, inch by inch. As I sat there, pretending to be unaffected by the tension in the air, I tried to focus on what Ivan had told me. The image of Araceli sitting on a plane, beside a man who looked wealthy and important, kept flashing in my mind. How could it be? I tried to replay everything I knew about her in my mind, searching for some clue, some hint that would explain this bizarre situation. But everything seemed perfectly normal. I tried to keep my thoughts from spiraling into panic, but it was becoming increasingly difficult. The phone call from Ivan had shaken me to my core. How could he have seen her? How could he have known for sure that it was her? Ivan wasn't the type to jump to conclusions. He was a pilot, someone who paid attention to details, who didn't make mistakes when it came to identifying people. Araceli came back into the living room, holding a cup of tea in her hands. She handed me one, sitting down across from me with a look of concern. "You're acting so strange today, Mom. What's going on?" I couldn't keep this up any longer. I had to ask. "Araceli, where were you this morning? I saw you upstairs, but I just talked to Ivan, and he told me something unbelievable." She looked at me, clearly confused. "What are you talking about?" "Ivan said he saw you on his flight to France. He said you were sitting next to some rich man." "Araceli, I don't understand. How could you be here with me and also be on a plane at the same time?" My voice trembled, my heart racing with every word I spoke. Her eyes widened in surprise, and she looked genuinely puzzled for a moment. "What? That's crazy. I've been here all morning, Mom. I don't know what Ivan's talking about." I stared at her, searching her face for any sign of guilt, any indication that she was lying. But there was nothing. She looked just as confused as I was. Was she really that good at hiding the truth? Or was Ivan mistaken? I couldn't help but ask again. "Araceli, are you sure? Are you absolutely sure you haven't left the house?" She nodded slowly, her brow furrowed. "I swear, Mom, I haven't gone anywhere today. I don't know why Ivan would say something like that." The doubt in my mind only grew stronger. But I didn't want to accuse her without more evidence. I needed something more concrete to go on. Still, the more I thought about it, the more unsettling it became. Ivan had been so sure, so confident. I didn't want to believe that Araceli would lie to me, but the facts were right there in front of me. Ivan had seen her, and I had seen her. But there were two different versions of reality at play. I looked at Araceli again, trying to make sense of it all. "Are you hiding something from me, Araceli?" I asked softly, the words slipping out before I could stop them. She froze. For a moment, I could see the smallest flicker of hesitation in her eyes, but it quickly disappeared. "Mom, why would I hide anything from you?" she replied, her voice calm and reassuring. But something in her tone didn't sound quite right. I didn't know what to think anymore. Ivan's words echoed in my mind, and I couldn't ignore the growing sense of dread. If Ivan was telling the truth, then everything I knew about Araceli was a lie. But if she was telling the truth, then why had Ivan seen her on that flight? I needed answers. But at this moment, all I had were more questions. "All right, I'll figure this out," I said, trying to steady my voice. "I just need some time to think." Araceli nodded, still looking at me with those wide, innocent eyes. "Of course, Mom. Take your time," she said, standing up to walk back to the kitchen. But I couldn't shake the feeling that the woman in front of me wasn't who I thought she was. And deep down, I knew that whatever was happening wasn't just a simple misunderstanding. Something bigger was at play, something that I wasn't ready to face. As she walked away, I sat there in silence, feeling more confused than ever. The phone call from Ivan, her strange behavior, and the gnawing feeling that something was terribly wrong. It was all too much to ignore. But what was the truth? Was I losing my mind? Or was Araceli hiding something far darker than I could ever imagine? I didn't know yet, but I was going to find out. I had to, for my family's sake. And that's when the thought hit me. I had to confront her. I couldn't sit here in silence, pretending everything was normal. The truth was out there, and I was going to uncover it, one way or another. I just hoped I wasn't too late. I sat there in the living room, watching Araceli move around the house with her usual grace. She seemed completely unaffected by the growing tension I felt. Her casual demeanor only made the unease inside me grow stronger. Every time I tried to clear my head, Ivan's words echoed in my mind. He had seen her for sure. How could I be sure of anything else? My son wasn't the type to make things up. He had called me in panic, and his certainty in his voice was unlike anything I had heard before. I watched Araceli move around, preparing tea, humming softly, as though the world hadn't just tilted on its axis. I wanted to trust her, to believe that everything was fine, but I couldn't. Something wasn't right. How could she be upstairs, just minutes ago, taking a shower, and yet be on a plane to France at the same time? It didn't make sense. I stood up, my legs feeling heavy beneath me. I had to figure out what was going on. But what could I do? I couldn't just accuse her without more proof. I needed something to latch onto, something concrete to either confirm or dismiss the chaos my mind was spiraling into. Araceli, I called, forcing myself to sound calm. She looked up, surprised. Yeah, Mom? I need to talk to you, I said, my voice shaking slightly. It was now or never. I had to confront her. The longer I waited, the more confused I became, and the more this feeling of dread twisted inside me. Okay, what's on your mind? She set the kettle down and walked over to sit beside me on the couch. Her face was soft, her eyes warm. If there was something going on that I didn't know, she was hiding it well. I glanced down at my hands, unsure of how to start. Ivan called me. Araceli. He said something's going on. He said he saw you on his flight to France this morning. She stiffened slightly, but it was so subtle that I almost missed it. What? She asked, a little too quickly. That's impossible, Mom. I've been here all morning. I stared at her, trying to read her face. Her expression was neutral, but I could see a slight shift in her posture, as though she was on guard. I know what he said, but I trailed off, unsure of what to say next. My mind was still racing. Ivan's not the kind of person who makes things up. He's sure it was you. Araceli's eyes flickered for just a moment, a flash of something that I couldn't quite place. She quickly regained her composure, her voice steady as she spoke. I don't know why Ivan would say that, but I've been here, Mom. I've been here with you, in the house, all morning. I haven't gone anywhere. I nodded, but doubt lingered in my mind. But Ivan said he saw you on the plane, sitting next to a man, a rich man, someone you were talking to like you were a couple. A silence filled the room. Araceli's face remained unchanged, but I noticed her hands tighten around the cup she was holding. Mom, I don't know what to tell you. That doesn't sound like something I'd do, she said, her voice strained. I couldn't help myself. Are you sure, Araceli? Are you really sure you didn't leave the house? Are you really sure you weren't on that flight? Ivan's story. It doesn't add up. Her eyes finally shifted, the faintest glimmer of discomfort flickering across her face. It was enough to make my heart race. Mom, I'm not lying, she said, her voice softer now. I'm not sure why Ivan would say that, but I've been here, with you. The room seemed to close in on me as I tried to piece everything together. Ivan was clear. He had seen her. How could she be here, but also on the plane? I had no explanation, but my gut was telling me that something wasn't right. I stood up abruptly, walking toward the window. The sun was setting outside, but all I could see was a growing darkness inside. What was I supposed to do? How could I figure out the truth? The suspicion was eating away at me, gnawing at the edges of everything I thought I knew about my family. I need to know, Araceli, I said, my voice tight. I need to know if you're hiding something from me, from the family. You're telling me you've been here all morning, but Ivan's story, it doesn't make sense. If you haven't been on that plane, then where were you, really? For the first time, her calm demeanor wavered. She stood up and walked towards me, her steps measured, as though choosing her next words carefully. I'm not hiding anything from you, Mom. I don't know why Ivan would say those things, but you have to believe me. I've been here. I watched her closely, trying to read between the lines. There was something in her eyes, something in the way she said it that made me pause. It wasn't fear exactly, but something else, almost like she was hiding a secret, and it was wearing on her. I couldn't place it, but the feeling wouldn't go away. I want to believe you, I said softly, my voice cracking a little. But right now, I'm not sure what to believe anymore. Araceli's expression softened for a moment, and I saw her take a step towards me. I don't want to hurt you, Mom, she said quietly. I swear I haven't been on any flight. I've been here. But I couldn't shake the unease that clung to the air between us. It was as if a veil had lifted, and I was seeing things clearly for the first time. I had trusted Araceli, welcomed her into my home, thought of her as family. But now I wasn't so sure. The doubt, once planted, was growing, and it was turning into something I couldn't ignore. I took a deep breath, trying to steady myself. I need to get to the bottom of this, I said quietly, more to myself than to her. I can't just sit here and ignore what's happening. Something's going on, and I'm not going to let it go. Not until I know the truth. Araceli nodded, but there was a flicker of something in her eyes, something I couldn't quite identify. She didn't speak, but I could feel the weight of her silence. I turned away from her and walked toward the hallway, my mind whirling with all the questions I needed answers to. I couldn't just sit in this house and pretend everything was fine. There were too many contradictions, too many things that didn't add up. If Araceli was hiding something, I had to find out what it was. No more ignoring the truth. No more second-guessing myself. The phone call from Ivan had been the catalyst. I had to trust my instincts. I couldn't let my family be torn apart by secrets. Whatever Araceli was hiding, I was going to uncover it. And if she wasn't hiding anything, then I would have to face the most difficult reality of all, that I was losing my mind, and all of this was just a figment of my overactive imagination. But deep down, I knew I wasn't wrong. This wasn't in my head. There was something going on, something bigger than any of us realized. I walked toward the door, feeling a knot of anxiety tighten in my chest. I wasn't sure what I would find, but I knew I couldn't ignore it any longer. I had to know the truth. And I was going to find it. Araceli's voice called after me, but I didn't turn back. I had to do this, for myself and for my family. The path ahead was uncertain, and I didn't know what I would uncover, but I couldn't stay in the dark any longer. The mystery was growing, and I was determined to uncover it, no matter where it would lead me. I couldn't sit in that living room any longer, pretending that everything was fine. Every thought in my head was a jumbled mess of confusion, anger, and fear. The moment Ivan called, I had been thrown into a whirlwind of uncertainty. I couldn't let it go, no matter how much I tried. Something was wrong, and I had to figure out what it was, even if it meant tearing apart everything I thought I knew about my family. I stood in the hallway for a moment, letting the silence hang around me. I didn't even know what to say to Araceli anymore. Every time I looked at her, I felt the weight of the suspicion growing heavier. Was it possible that I had been blind to something all along? Could she really be hiding something from me? Something that would tear our family apart? I walked toward the kitchen. The familiar sound of the kettle boiling in the background only added to the chaos in my mind. I opened the kitchen door and stood there, watching Araceli as she carefully placed a cup of tea on the counter. She didn't notice me at first, and for a brief moment, I considered just walking out of the room. But I couldn't. Not now. I couldn't live with the doubt any longer. Araceli, I said, my voice hoarse. I need you to tell me the truth. What's really going on? Ivan called me in panic, and I need to know if you've been on that plane. If you've been lying to me. She turned around, and for the first time, I saw something in her eyes that wasn't the calm, loving daughter-in-law I had known for so long. There was hesitation, just the slightest tremor in her gaze. Mom, I told you, I haven't been on a plane. I don't know what Ivan's talking about, but you have to believe me. Her words were reassuring, but I wasn't sure if I could trust them anymore. The look in her eyes told me something else. I had been with Araceli long enough to know when she was hiding something, and right now, she wasn't being entirely honest with me. The question was, what was she hiding? I don't want to believe this, I said, my voice cracking. I really don't. But Ivan doesn't lie. He said he saw you. I need to understand, Araceli. I need to know what's going on. Araceli's face remained calm, but there was something about the way she clutched the edge of the countertop that made me uneasy. She was nervous. I could see it. Her fingers trembled slightly as she picked up her cup of tea, but she didn't say anything for a long time. It was as if she was deciding whether to tell me the truth or keep the lie going. Finally, she spoke, her voice quieter than usual. I don't know why Ivan would say that. Maybe he saw someone else. Maybe he's confused. But I haven't been anywhere today. I haven't left this house, I swear. I stared at her, waiting for something, anything to give her away. But nothing did. She looked so calm, so sure of herself, it was almost convincing. But I knew better. The doubt inside me was growing. I couldn't just sit there and accept her words at face value. I had to find out the truth. I'm sorry, but I don't believe you, I said, my voice trembling. I need to know where you were this morning, Araceli. I need to know what happened. Ivan can't be lying about something like this. If you really haven't been on that plane, then why was your passport found at the airport? Why did Ivan see you on his flight? I can't ignore that. She looked at me, her face hardening slightly, as if she was trying to gather her thoughts. I don't know, Mom. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe there's some mistake, but I'm telling you, I wasn't on that plane. I was here with you. You saw me. I took a deep breath, trying to keep my composure. This wasn't easy. I had raised Araceli like my own daughter, trusted her, and loved her. The thought that she could be hiding something this big was crushing, but the facts didn't add up. Ivan had been clear. He had seen her. It wasn't a coincidence. I know what I saw, Araceli, I said quietly, the words heavy in my mouth. I know what Ivan told me, and I can't ignore it. I need to know what's really going on. I don't care if it's hard to hear. I just need the truth. For the first time, Araceli's calm facade cracked. She turned away from me, her face tense. I don't know what you want me to say, Mom. I've told you the truth. I haven't left. I'm not hiding anything from you. I couldn't let this go. If she was lying, I needed to know why. What was she hiding? Why had Ivan seen her, and why did she seem so determined to keep me from knowing the truth? It was as if she was trying to protect herself from something, or someone. I'm not leaving this room until you tell me the truth, Araceli, I said, my voice steady but firm. What are you hiding from me? Why did Ivan see you on the flight? What aren't you telling me? She stayed silent for a moment, her eyes darting to the window, as if she was searching for an escape. I could see the guilt in her eyes, the hesitation. She was trying to think of a way out of this, a way to cover up whatever secret she was keeping. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I don't want to keep lying to you, Mom, she finally said, her voice soft, almost breaking. I didn't want you to find out like this. My heart skipped a beat. What do you mean? What are you saying, Araceli? She took a deep breath, as though preparing herself for what she was about to reveal. I wasn't on the plane. But there's someone else. Someone who's been pretending to be me. A woman who looks just like me. I didn't want you to find out this way. I thought I could keep it hidden. I felt like the ground beneath me had shifted. My mind was racing, trying to process what she had just said. What? Someone else? Pretending to be you? I asked, my voice trembling. Why would someone do that? Why would you let someone take your place? Araceli's shoulders slumped, and she let out a long, shaky breath. It wasn't supposed to be like this. I didn't mean for things to get so out of control. It started out small, just a few times when I had to be somewhere else, but couldn't be seen. I needed someone who looked like me to cover for me. At first, it didn't seem like a big deal, but then it kept happening, and I couldn't stop it. Stop it? I asked, struggling to understand. What do you mean by that? Who is this person? Araceli finally turned to face me, her eyes filled with shame. Her name is Isidora. She's a woman who looks exactly like me. I found her a few months ago. She needed the money, and I needed her help. I didn't think it would get this far. I couldn't process the words coming out of her mouth. It felt like the ground had been pulled out from under me. You've been using someone else to pretend to be you? Why, Araceli? What's going on? Why didn't you tell me? Araceli's face crumpled, and she sank into a chair, her hands trembling. I didn't want to hurt anyone, Mom. I just needed to get away sometimes, and then it all just spiraled. I kept telling myself I could stop, but I couldn't. I didn't know how to get out of it. And then I started seeing things I didn't expect. Isadora is in deeper than I ever wanted her to be, and now it's all unraveling. I stood there in shock, my mind struggling to process everything she had just told me. You've been using your look-alike to cover up for you? How many times has this happened? How long have you been doing this? Araceli shook her head, tears streaming down her face. Too many times, Mom. Too many. I never meant for this to go this far. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't want to lose everything. I felt a sickening wave of betrayal hit me. The woman I had trusted, the woman I had welcomed into my family, had been living a lie. And I had been living it with her. She had deceived us all, and for what? To cover up her own secrets, her own desires? I didn't know what to say. I wanted to yell, to cry, to scream at her for everything she had done. But instead, I stood there, numb, staring at the woman I had once called family. My heart was broken, and I didn't know how to fix it. The truth was out there now, but it had shattered everything in its wake. I turned away, trying to hold back the tears. I don't know what to say to you anymore, Araceli. I don't know what to do with all of this. I never wanted to hurt you, Mom, she whispered, her voice barely audible. I'm sorry, I never wanted this to happen. And with those words, everything changed. The room felt colder than it had ever been. The silence between Araceli and me, thick with the weight of her confession. My mind was still reeling from the revelation that had shattered everything I thought I knew about her, about my family. I couldn't look at her anymore without feeling a deep sense of betrayal. How could she have done this? How could she have lied to me, to Ivan, to everyone we knew? It was as if the person I had trusted so deeply had been a stranger all along. Araceli sat there in the chair, her face pale, her body hunched over as though the weight of her own guilt was too much for her to bear. Her tears flowed freely now, but I couldn't bring myself to comfort her. I didn't know how to. I wanted to. A part of me still loved her, still wanted to believe that this wasn't the woman I had welcomed into my home and treated like my own daughter. But the truth was there, in front of me, and it couldn't be undone. I walked toward the window, my eyes scanning the street outside, but it was as if I was looking at the world through a fog. I didn't know how to process this. Everything in my life had seemed so stable, so secure, until now. And now? Now I was facing the reality that Araceli had been living a double life, lying to everyone, including me. I never meant for it to go this far, Mom. Araceli's voice broke the silence, barely above a whisper. I turned to look at her, but I couldn't bring myself to walk over and comfort her. Not yet. Not until I understood everything. I was scared. I didn't know how to stop, and now I've ruined everything. Her words hung in the air, but I didn't know how to respond. How could I comfort her when my own heart was breaking? I had spent so much of my life trying to protect my family, trying to keep everything together, but now I saw that I had been blind to the things happening right under my nose. You've ruined everything, Araceli, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. You've broken my trust. You've broken Ivan's trust. And now I don't even know what to believe anymore. I don't know who you are. All this time, I thought you were someone I could rely on, someone I could love. And now it feels like everything was a lie. I didn't mean for it to happen like this, she cried. I swear, I didn't want to hurt you. I was just trying to protect myself, and then it got out of control. I didn't know how to stop. Her words were filled with regret, but it wasn't enough. The damage had already been done. The lies, the deception, the manipulation, they had already seeped too deep into the fabric of our family. I couldn't just ignore it. I couldn't just forgive it and move on as though nothing had happened. You should have told me the truth from the beginning, Araceli, I said, the words coming out more sharply than I intended. If you had, we could have figured this out together, but instead you chose to lie. You chose to keep everything hidden, and now look where we are. She shook her head desperately, as though trying to make me understand. I didn't think you'd understand, Mom. I didn't think you'd forgive me. I thought you'd hate me. I stared at her, my chest tight with the weight of her words. I don't know what to think anymore, I whispered. I don't know how to forgive something like this. How do I forgive someone who's lied to me for so long, who's been living a double life right under my nose? Her face crumpled, and she let out a sob that seemed to echo in the empty house. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Mom. I never wanted to hurt you. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I turned away from her again, unable to face the tears in her eyes. I needed space. I needed time to think. Everything felt too overwhelming, too much to handle in this one moment. I didn't know how to begin to process what had happened. The person I thought I knew, the woman who had been part of my family for so long, had just torn everything apart. I walked into the hallway, pacing back and forth as I tried to collect my thoughts. It was like my entire world had been flipped upside down and I couldn't find my footing. How had I been so blind? How had I allowed Araceli to fool me, to manipulate me like this? My head was filled with questions, and none of the answers seemed to make any sense. I needed to know everything. I needed to know the full truth about how this had happened, why it had happened. How could I have missed it? How could I have been so trusting, so naive? After a long silence, I heard the sound of footsteps behind me. I turned to see Araceli standing at the end of the hallway, her face red from crying, her eyes pleading for me to listen. I know you don't want to hear this, Mom, she said softly, but there's more you need to know. I froze. My heart skipped a beat. More? I asked, my voice barely audible. What more could there possibly be? She took a step toward me, and I could see the desperation in her eyes. Isadora. She's the one I've been using to cover for me. She's the one who's been pretending to be me when I couldn't be in two places at once. But that's not all, Mom. I've been doing things I shouldn't have, things that I can't take back. My mind raced. Isadora. The woman who had been pretending to be Araceli. This was the first time she had mentioned her by name, and it only added to the confusion. What do you mean, things you shouldn't have done? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Araceli took a shaky breath, and then she said the words that I never expected to hear. I've been involved with someone who's been helping me with everything. Charles. He's the one I've been seeing while pretending to be in different places. I've been lying to Stephen. I've been lying to you. I've been lying to everyone. Charles. The name hit me like a punch to the gut. It felt like everything I had ever known was crumbling right in front of my eyes. Who is this man, Araceli? I asked, my voice trembling. How long has this been going on? Araceli's face flushed with shame. I never meant for any of this to happen. It started with small things, just meeting him in secret. But then, it got more serious. I didn't know how to stop it. He was offering me everything I thought I wanted, everything I thought I was missing. Everything I thought I was missing. The words stung, and I could feel the tears welling up in my eyes. My heart broke all over again. So this whole time, while I was trusting you, while I was loving you like my own daughter, you were seeing another man behind everyone's back? I asked, barely able to speak through the pain. I didn't want to hurt you, Mom, she said again, her voice breaking. I thought I could handle it. I thought I could keep it all hidden, but I couldn't. It all just fell apart. The pieces were falling into place now, but I wasn't sure I could even process what I was hearing. Araceli had been living a secret life, hiding not only her relationship with Charles, but also her deception with Isadora. She had been lying to me, to Stephen, to everyone who loved her. She had been so convincing, so good at pretending to be the perfect daughter-in-law. And now, it was all falling apart. I shook my head, trying to clear the fog that had settled in my mind. How could you do this, Araceli? How could you betray us like this? How could you betray Stephen? She looked at me, her eyes filled with sorrow. I don't have an answer, Mom. I don't know why I did it. All I know is that I'm sorry. I never wanted to hurt anyone. But the damage had already been done. The trust I had in her was shattered. The illusion of the perfect family we had worked so hard to build had been destroyed. "I need time," I said, my voice firm but shaky. "I need to think. I need to figure out what comes next." Araceli nodded, her face pale and full of regret. "I understand, Mom. Take all the time you need." But as she stood there, I knew that nothing would ever be the same again. The lies, the deceit, the secrets, they had torn through our family like a storm, leaving nothing but destruction in its wake. I didn't know how to fix this. I didn't know how to heal from this. All I knew was that I couldn't go back to the way things were before. Too much had changed. Too much had been uncovered. And yet, deep down, I knew that I had to find a way to move forward. I had to protect what was left of my family, even if that meant facing the truth I didn't want to accept. The truth had set me free in some ways, but it had also left me broken. I didn't know how I was going to heal, but I knew that somehow I would have to find a way to pick up the pieces. The days that followed were the hardest of my life. I could barely sleep, barely eat, as the weight of everything Araceli had confessed hung over me like a dark cloud. The family I had worked so hard to protect, to build, was crumbling before my eyes. I wanted to scream, to let out all the anger and hurt that had built up inside me, but there was something more pressing now. Something deeper than my own pain. I needed to protect my son, Stephen. I needed to protect my grandson, Matthew. The realization that Araceli had been lying for so long, living a life I knew nothing about, was devastating. But what was even worse was the fact that she had deceived Stephen. He had been in the dark, completely unaware of what his wife had been doing behind his back. How could I tell him? How could I break his heart like that? I thought about Stephen often during those days. He was my firstborn, my pride and joy. I had watched him grow into a kind, hard-working man, a loving father. To think that his whole world was about to come crashing down because of the woman he had trusted, the woman he had married, was almost too much to bear. I had to warn him, but I couldn't find the right words. How could I explain the betrayal without completely destroying him? I had spent days trying to figure out the right time, the right way to tell him. But it never seemed to feel like the right moment. Every time I thought I was ready, I would find myself backing out. I couldn't bear to see the pain in his eyes, the confusion that would take over his face as he processed the truth. It wasn't just the betrayal of a wife, of a woman he loved. It was the betrayal of the family he had trusted. And in a way, it felt like a betrayal of me too. I decided that I needed to do something. I couldn't let Araceli continue to live in my house, pretending that everything was fine. It wasn't just about her anymore. It was about Stephen and Matthew, and about making sure that they wouldn't be dragged into this web of lies. I had to confront Stephen. I had to tell him everything, even if it meant breaking his heart. It was late one evening when I finally made up my mind. I had spent the entire day pacing around the house, running over the conversation in my head. I knew it would be painful, that it would rip Stephen apart, but it was the only way. He deserved the truth. I waited until Stephen returned from work. He came in the door as tired as usual, but with that familiar smile on his face. I forced myself to smile back, even though my heart was heavy with what I was about to say. "Hey, Mom," he greeted me warmly. "How's it going?" I forced the words out, my voice barely audible. "We need to talk, Stephen. It's important." He paused, his smile fading slightly as he looked at me, sensing something was wrong. "What's going on, Mom?" His brow furrowed in concern. "You look pale. Are you okay?" "I'm fine," I said, though I knew I wasn't. "But there's something you need to know. Something about Araceli." His expression shifted, confusion and concern taking over. "What about her? What's going on with Araceli?" I took a deep breath, trying to steady my nerves. The words were right there, on the tip of my tongue, but I didn't know if I could say them without breaking down. "Stephen, I don't know how to tell you this, but I think you deserve to know the truth. I think you have the right to know what's been going on." His face hardened, and his eyes narrowed as if he knew something was wrong, something he wasn't being told. "Mom, you're scaring me. What's going on?" I stood up and walked toward the window, needing a moment to collect myself. I don't know how to explain this, Stephen. I don't even know where to begin. I felt my hands shaking as I clutched the edge of the windowsill. But I need you to listen. What I'm about to tell you is going to change everything. Stephen stood up, his face full of concern and confusion. Mom, you're not making sense. What are you talking about? I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and began. Stephen, Araceli has been lying to us. She's been living a double life. She's been using someone who looks just like her, a woman named Isadora, to cover for her when she's been somewhere else. I could feel Stephen's confusion growing. What? What are you talking about? Isadora? What do you mean? I turned to face him, my heart pounding in my chest. It's true, Stephen. Araceli has been using Isadora to pretend to be her when she couldn't be at home. She's been lying to you, to me, to everyone. She's been hiding something, and I've known about it for a while. But I couldn't tell you, because I didn't know how. Stephen's face was a mask of disbelief. Mom, no, this doesn't make sense. Araceli wouldn't do that. She loves me. She loves our family. She's not capable of something like this. I stepped forward, my voice steady despite the pain. She's been seeing someone, Stephen, another man, someone named Charles. She's been having an affair while you were working, while you were trusting her. Stephen staggered back as though I had physically struck him. His face went pale, his mouth working as if he couldn't find the words. What? What are you saying? My wife? My Araceli? She's been cheating on me? I nodded slowly, tears welling up in my eyes as I watched the devastation begin to take hold of him. I'm so sorry, Stephen. I never wanted you to find out like this. But I couldn't keep it from you any longer. You deserve to know the truth. You deserve to know what's been happening. He sank into the chair, his eyes wide with shock. No, this can't be real. It just can't be. I could see the devastation in his eyes, the betrayal, the disbelief. He couldn't understand it. He didn't want to. He loved her. He trusted her. And I had just torn that trust apart with the cruelest of truths. Mom, why didn't you tell me sooner? He asked, his voice barely above a whisper, filled with both hurt and confusion. Why didn't you stop this? I wanted to, Stephen. Believe me, I did. But I couldn't. I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't know how to protect you from this. I didn't want to destroy your life. He stood up, pacing the room in disbelief. How could she do this, after everything I've done for her, for this family? I don't know, son, I said softly. I don't know why she did this. But I know that you deserve better. You deserve the truth. He stopped pacing and looked at me, his eyes wet with unshed tears. How could I have been so blind? How could I not see it? You couldn't, Stephen, I said gently. You loved her. You trusted her. That's what you were supposed to do. But she betrayed you. And now, it's time to face the reality of it. The room was thick with silence as we both stood there, processing what had just happened. The shock, the pain, the heartbreak. It was all too much to handle in this moment. I don't know what to do now, Mom, Stephen whispered, his voice trembling. How do I go on after this? How do I face her again? I don't have the answers, Stephen. I wish I did. But what I do know is that you don't have to face this alone. I'm here for you. Always. He nodded slowly, his face still pale, his eyes filled with so many emotions I couldn't even begin to name. I don't know if I can forgive her for this. I don't know if I can ever trust her again. I understand, I said softly, stepping closer to him. You don't have to decide right now. Take all the time you need. But remember that you're not alone in this. I watched him as he stood there, the weight of everything crashing down on him. The family he had loved, the wife he had trusted, the life he had built. It was all in pieces now, scattered across the floor like broken glass. But as much as I wished I could spare him from the pain, I knew that he had to face it. He had to know the truth, no matter how much it hurt. The only way forward was through the pain, and together we would find a way to rebuild. But for now, All we could do was face the aftermath of the betrayal and let time heal the wounds, if it ever could. The days following that heart-wrenching conversation with Stephen were nothing short of a storm. I watched as my son, the man I had always known to be so strong, so steady, slowly crumbled under the weight of the betrayal. Araceli, the woman he had married, the woman he had trusted with everything he had, was now the source of all his pain, and I couldn't undo it. I couldn't take it away, no matter how badly I wanted to. All I could do was be there for him as best as I could, and even that felt so inadequate. Stephen spent the next few days in a daze. He barely ate, barely slept, and when he did, I could hear him tossing and turning in his room late at night, unable to find peace. I would walk by his door and hear the muffled sounds of his anguish, and my heart would break a little more each time. How could I fix this? How could I help him when I, too, was consumed by my own heartbreak? The family I had worked so hard to protect, to keep whole, was falling apart in front of me. Araceli had done more than just break Stephen's trust. She had shattered the very foundation of what we had built together. It wasn't just about her affair with Charles or the lies she had been telling. It was about everything, about the lies she had lived, the woman she had pretended to be. It felt like the family we had been was now a facade, and behind it, the ugly truth was tearing us apart. I couldn't bring myself to speak to Araceli, not yet. What could I say to her? She had betrayed us all. She had taken our trust and thrown it away. She had deceived Stephen, made him believe in something that wasn't true, and I couldn't forgive that, not yet. I wasn't even sure I ever could. But Stephen, he needed me. More than ever. So I did what I had to do. I stayed close, even when every part of me wanted to run away from the situation. He would come to me for comfort, for answers, and I tried my best to give them to him. We talked late into the night, our conversations always starting with the same question. How could Araceli have done this? How could she betray him so deeply? The truth was, I didn't have any answers. I couldn't explain it, couldn't make sense of it. I could only offer him a listening ear, a shoulder to lean on. I wanted to protect him from the pain, to shield him from the heartache of it all, but I knew that wasn't possible. This was something he had to go through. This was his battle now, and all I could do was help him fight it. Days turned into weeks, and the heaviness of the situation still hadn't lifted. Araceli remained silent, barely speaking to anyone, and I began to wonder if she was even capable of feeling the same pain we were. Did she realize what she had done? Did she understand the depth of the destruction she had caused? Part of me wanted her to feel the same crushing weight of guilt that we were all carrying, but another part of me wondered if she would ever truly understand what she had done. One afternoon, as I was sitting in the living room trying to sort through my thoughts, I heard the sound of the doorbell. I glanced up, surprised. It was rare for anyone to visit these days, especially with everything going on. When I opened the door, I was greeted by a familiar face. Lucy, Isadora's roommate. "Mrs. Brooks," Lucy said, her voice hesitant. "I know this isn't easy, but I needed to come and talk to you." I stepped aside to let her in, unsure of what she wanted. "What's this about, Lucy?" I asked, my voice wary. "I know things are complicated right now," she began, her eyes downcast as she sat down on the couch. "But I need to tell you the truth about Isadora, about what happened. She didn't know everything, and I don't want you to blame her for what Araceli did." I frowned, not sure if I was ready to hear any more truths. "What do you mean, Lucy?" She hesitated for a moment, her fingers nervously twisting the edge of her sleeve. "Isadora never wanted to be part of this. She didn't want to deceive your family. She only agreed to help Araceli because Araceli promised her money to help her family. She's never been a part of the plan to hurt anyone. She was just trying to survive." I sat down across from her, my mind spinning. "But she helped Araceli pretend to be her. She covered for Araceli when she wasn't even here. How can you say she wasn't a part of this?" Lucy nodded, her eyes filled with sadness. "She didn't understand what she was getting into, Mrs. Brooks. Araceli convinced her it was just a small thing at first. But it became a bigger and bigger part of Isadora's life, and eventually she felt trapped. She didn't know how to back out, She never wanted to hurt Stephen or anyone else. She was just trying to help. I couldn't deny the truth in her words. Isadora had been caught up in something far bigger than herself. But that didn't change what had happened. The lies, the deceit, the pain. It didn't change the fact that our family was broken. "I don't know how to move forward from this, Lucy," I said softly, my voice thick with emotion. "I don't know how to fix what Araceli has done." Lucy looked at me, her eyes full of sympathy. "I understand, but I think there's still a chance for healing for both Stephen and Isadora. They both need to understand each other. They both need to see that none of this was ever about hurting anyone. It was about survival. And in the end, they both have to come to terms with it." I didn't know if I believed that. I didn't know if I could ever forgive Araceli. But maybe there was hope for Stephen. Maybe there was hope for Isadora, too. They both had their own pain, their own struggles. And while I couldn't fix everything, I could be there for them. I could help them both find a way to heal. That night, after Lucy left, I sat in the quiet of the house, reflecting on everything that had happened. There was so much pain, so much betrayal. But there was also something else, something I hadn't seen before. Love. I had loved Araceli like a daughter, even though she had betrayed that love. I had loved Stephen through every hardship, every struggle. And now, even though the wounds were still fresh, even though the pain was almost unbearable, I had to find a way to love him through this too. The next few days passed in a blur. Stephen had retreated to his room, spending most of his time alone, trying to process everything. I tried to give him space, but I knew he needed me. He needed someone to talk to, someone to help him sort through the mess Araceli had left behind. And as much as it hurt, as much as I didn't want to face Araceli again, I knew I had to, for Stephen's sake, and for Matthew's. When I finally decided to confront Araceli again, I found her sitting alone in the kitchen, her face pale, her eyes red from crying. She looked up as I walked in, and for the first time, I saw a glimmer of regret in her eyes. It was small, almost imperceptible, but it was there. "I'm sorry, Mom," she said quietly. "I'm so sorry for everything. I never meant to hurt anyone. I never meant for this to happen." I looked at her, my heart heavy. "You've hurt Stephen, Araceli. You've hurt him more than you'll ever understand. And now he's hurting. And so am I." She nodded, her face crumpling with grief. I know. And I hate myself for it. I can't take back what I've done, but I can't bear to see him like this. I can't bear the thought of losing him." I stood in the doorway, watching her, my heart torn. "Then you have to show him, Araceli. You have to show him that you're sorry, that you want to make things right." She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. "I'll do anything, Mom. I'll do whatever it takes." I didn't know if I believed her. I didn't know if she could fix the damage she had done, but I also knew that in the end, it wasn't up to me. It was up to Stephen. It was up to him to decide if he could ever forgive her. And I had to be there for him, no matter what. For him, for Matthew, for the family we had been before all of this. The road to healing would be long and difficult, but I would help them navigate it. I would help them rebuild, piece by piece, even if it meant facing the hardest truths along the way. Family was more than just blood. It was trust. And right now, I had to trust that somehow we could find our way back to each other.